Call this beat Will Smith, cause it slaps hard. Hear it not when I pull up on your boulevard.
I'm a woman. This is horrible advice to not text her. This show's about to be a little spicy. Hey guys, welcome to the Harry Dating Conversation Show. I'm your host, Harry Wilmington. This is where I go over a variety of things, ranging from stuff I see in the media, to Reddit posts, to other various things that I want to comment on. But on today's show, I have a treat for you guys. So, about a week or so ago, there was a woman that reached out on Instagram to me, and as I was doing other things at the time, I couldn't get back right away. I still technically haven't gotten back to her yet, but she was texting me stuff, and then she kept liking stuff on my Instagram Reels, because I kept getting these notices on my phone. And so it was this woman that's in New York, and she was commenting, basically saying she watched my YouTube channel, watched my Instagram, she likes that I'm helping men out, but that she'd love to connect because there are a few things that she felt that I was saying that are holding guys back from their success. And so she presented a lot of critiques on some of my various videos on my Instagram channel, as well as one on my YouTube channel, where she says, quote, "I'm a woman, this is horrible advice to not text her," and then goes into what the truth is for women. And so I think this is actually a great lesson for you guys at home watching, as well as for women out there, because this is what I talk about when I say that it behooves both sexes to really get a better understanding of what the other sex is going through in the dating world. Because there's a lot of comments that she made that I think she's well-meaning in her comments, but because she does not have the experience of a guy trying to go after women, that while she's coming from a good place, she doesn't quite have enough info to really be informed on the things that she's saying, and therefore the things that she's saying, I feel, would not be helpful. So this is really a lesson for the guys out there to kind of get an idea of how women are coming across thinking a certain way, and then why, even when they're thinking a certain way, the stuff that I talk about will still work on them, even if verbally they're saying they disagree. And for the women out there, this will give you kind of insight into the ways in which men think about dating, feel about dating, but also how their experience actually delegates how they go forward when they're determining what's going to work best. Because I can tell you, a lot of the stuff that she says today is stuff that should legitimately work in a perfect world where guys could just go out there, be blatantly honest and whatever. But the reality of dating for most men is that the things that she mentions in her critiques of me do not actually work. But hey, beyond that, guys, I would love for you guys that are watching to comment down below, and based on what I'm talking about in the show, let women out there know if what I'm talking about actually connects with you and has been your experience as well. Because I just assume, hey, I'm one guy dating in the world. For all we know, everything that I've experienced could be just my solo experience, and you guys may be like, she's actually right, Harry, you're tripping. But ideally, hopefully, I've had enough dating experience and have done enough shows where you guys kind of understand and feel the things that I'm talking about. So this whole show, lady that's watching, is just dedicated to answering your critiques, because you had a lot of them and they were based on video. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the video that the woman saw, and then I'm going to give you guys the critique that she gave me, and then explain my position on her critique, all right? So let's start off with this first video. So this first video that she commented on was a video that I made called "A Major Mistake You're Making with Your Dating App Pictures." So let's watch that video. A major mistake that men are making on dating apps as it pertains to their pictures is they are not focusing on projecting the kind of lifestyle that a woman could potentially see herself being a part of. So for example, this guy, he sent me the 6 pictures, and there's a picture of him standing there with a striped t-shirt on in the dark. There's a picture of him with a white shirt on, leaning back in a chair. There's another picture of him just standing at a bar. All these pictures of him standing someplace with some random shirt on, looking weird into the camera. When a woman's looking at your pictures, if she can't envision her being a part of your world, then you're going to lose out. She's not going to be able to buy into you because she's not seeing, A, how she's going to fit into your life, and also what things she's going to be connecting herself to should she be in your life, all right? I'll give you an example. I went to Australia. So when I was putting pictures on the dating apps, I had a picture of me feeding a kangaroo. That is a story because kangaroos aren't typically found in the US, which means I had to travel. So a woman seeing my profile can look at that and say, oh my gosh, he's feeding a kangaroo. A, that's exciting because how often does a guy get to feed a kangaroo? And also, he must have traveled somewhere in order to be able to feed that kangaroo. I would have loved to go on that trip. So she can now start to envision, oh, if I'm with this guy, I might do some traveling, whether it's to Australia or to other exciting places where I can feed all kinds of interesting animals. You got to think about those kind of things when you are putting pictures on your dating app. The majority of you guys are just putting pictures that you're like, okay, this is me. And you're not really thinking about what it is you actually need to be showing to women that's going to make them more interested in you than the other 9 or 10 bozos she just swiped left on before she got to you. All right, so that was a video that she commented on first, and here's the comment that she left. She said, most men should not be on dating apps because they are rigged for only the most handsome and wealthy men to get attention. The average guy will be more successful approaching women in real life. The secondary approach requires self-improvement, but the ROI is incredible. So I'm going to comment on the first part, which is that dating apps are rigged. And I'm sure you guys may actually agree with that assessment that, oh my God, only the top 10 or 15% of guys that are really hot guys on there get the women, or it's a bunch of bots on there, or it's a bunch of, people getting on there that aren't really the top tier, whatever. And so we'll just say that on some level, that could be true. Now, I'm going to speak from my personal experience about dating apps, all right? As a guy on dating apps, when I first started out, I was putting up any kind of picture and I was just saying whatever on the app. Half the time I was saying like, please date me because I'm lonely or whatever, right? And I found that did not really get me a high number of matches because women don't like to see dudes that aren't putting themselves together and don't know what they're doing or sound like simps, just real talk, or sound like lonely guys that can never get women, right? Over the years, as I started to change certain things in my profile, whether it was like how I was talking about myself in my bio, the kind of things I was mentioning, as well as the kind of pictures that I was posting up. And then in terms of messaging, knowing the kinds of messages to send, all these different skill sets led me to have better results. Now, I look how I look. So some will say, hey, on the grand scheme of things, I'm like a 4. Some people say I'm more like a 7 or 8. But the point is that regardless of how I looked the same all the time. So why are my results different from when I first started to later on? It's because I learned that for a dating app, it is an advertising mechanism. And so you have to treat it as such. You got to put up your best pictures. You got to talk about yourself in the best light. You got to put your best foot forward. And women see that and say, oh, he's putting a lot of effort into his profile. He'll probably put effort into a dating situation or relationship with me. All right. So all that to say is that yes, women are going to get far better results than we ever will on dating apps, but that does not mean that you cannot legitimately do things to your profile that will result in you having better results, all right? So that's the first part, is that you don't have to be the most handsome person, you don't have to be the most wealthy person to get attention. Will it help you? 100% absolutely not going to fight against that part, right? But the reality is that there are regular, everyday looking dudes who can go on there, and if they know how to present themselves in the right light, they can also match with women, because we really focus on the 10 to 15% of dudes that are at the top tier and the 10 or 15% of women that are like the absolute best gorgeous thing looking ever, right? Well, there are women on there that are just average to okay looking, and despite what the media has you believe, they will look for a guy that is also probably in that same range, maybe a little bit higher, but there are a decent number of women on there that'll be like, I just want to find a guy that's going to connect with. How do I know? Because I've helped some of those just okay to average looking guys get women on these dating profiles, all right? So you don't have to think that you have to be that way, but you do have to know how to advertise yourself in a real way in order to do that. Now, for the second part of her critique, she says the average guy will be more successful approaching women in real life. It requires self-improvement, but the ROI is incredible. So this is where we get to where I talk about, where I say that women, while well-meaning, they do not have the experience of dating as a guy. So when women say these kind of things, what they're referring to are the top 10 to 15% of guys that just are born with the naturally handsome looks and the charisma, and they know how to dress a certain way, and they, go into acting all cool and whatnot. And yes, those guys will that's not true. Even those guys, if they go into a bar and try to talk to like 10 women, they might have 3 by the end of the night that would be legitimately interested in going home with them, not all at the same time, although maybe, but like a woman can go, a relatively average to attractive looking woman can go into a bar and just say, I'm open for business, and most guys are going to run to that, all right? Now, women aren't going to typically do that because, they have their own mechanisms in their head that prevent them from doing that, because they're also have other things they're looking for, and they got to look out for safety and stuff like that. Not all women, but a good majority of them. So I say this to say, so this woman's thinking she's thinking as a guy, it's easy to just walk into public, approach a woman, say, hey, what's up, and get her to go on a date. And the reason that they think this is because that's how it is for them. I talk a lot on this channel about how both men and women project onto the other one how things should be. Like, guys have a bad habit of like, well, I think about things this way, and so she should be thinking about this way also, because we're not adding the emotional component for that they have to go through in their filter in order to have the same thoughts and feelings that we do. So women do this same thing where, because for them, on average, it's easier for women to go out there, just approach any guy and get that guy interested. They then feel that it's the same for guys. Newsflash, ladies, it is not that easy. Even a guy that has game, that is the most handsomest of guys, has all the stuff, ducks in a row, rich guys, whatever. Because I've coached rich dudes, I've coached average dudes who are like, I have a good situation, I got a house, I got a car, I got whatever, and I go up to women in bars, and before I even get a chance to open my mouth, they're already looking away, they're acting weird, they're laughing at me. So as a guy, this is why you have to build a skill set, because even if you have a skill set, it's not going to be nearly as easy for you to get a mate as it is for a woman, but at least if you have the skills, you can get your foot in the door a little bit easier. But most guys don't know this, and so, yeah, the average guy that already knows he has his stuff together, going up to a woman in public or at a bar and trying to approach is usually going to get ignored or walked away from or laughed at or whatever. And especially in the time where we're going through the also me movement, it's even worse, because now guys have to worry about if she finds me creepy, then approaching her is going to be considered harassment, and now I have a bigger problem on my hand. And ladies, spoiler, we don't know when you look at us if you're feeling that we're either creepy or that you really, really like us or that you want us to approach. We don't know that off bat, because as a guy, we've had the experience of looking across the room and seeing a woman looking back at us and thinking, oh, she's looking at me, I must have a shot. And then we go up to that woman and say, hey, what's up? And then it's just like, ugh, and they walk away. That happens quite often. So no, it is not easy for a guy, even a guy that has all the self-improvement in the world, to do that initial approach. It's good if you practice things to get better at it, but the reality is it is not an easy thing. So I say it because women think it's easier for a guy, in this case, to go walk up to a woman in public versus meeting her online. And in both arenas, women have it immensely easier. It's easier for women to get online and get a bunch of matches right away, and it's easier for women to go in public and start talking to dudes, any dude that she wants, pick of the litter, and that dude start talking back. It is not the same for us guys. So for you women watching that, now you know. So let's get on to the second video of mine. So the second video that she critiqued was the one that said, I talked about one of 3 ways that men can start building confidence in themselves. All right, so let's watch that video. Here is the first way to start building confidence, okay? Build your life up. If you are at a point right now where part of the reason you're not approaching women is because you can, I realistically look at yourself and say, I don't think I have the lifestyle that a woman's gonna want. I don't think I have things set up in place now to be able to support a woman. Then you really need to get that situated first for your own ease of mind, because subconsciously, you're always gonna be looking at yourself thinking, I know where I am in life right now, and based on where I'm at, this is what I'm determining in terms of whether or not a woman's going to want me. And the more you have stuff together, subconsciously, the more self-confidence you're going to have in being able to approach women. Because think about this, right? When I first moved to California and I was going to parties and I had no job, everybody else was talking about, oh, I'm working on this project. Oh, I'm doing this at my job. I just got this raise, this and that. I didn't want to say to them that I hadn't found my place yet and didn't have money coming in, whatever. So I'd just be there silent. But that put me in a position of like crouching down and being really like, nervous about who I was, and did I want to tell these women that are at these parties that I don't have any kind of prospects going on, because I know they're going to judge me if I say I have no job and I don't have money coming in, and I can't figure out how I'm going to support myself or pay my rent this month, And so all that stuff can cause anxiety, can cause depression, it can cause you to be a lesser version of yourself that you're going to project out into the world. Get your money right. Figure out what you got to do to be able to get that money, whether it's get a full-time job, whether it's invent or create something, but do something that's going to get your money up, not just for women, but for you. Because I'm telling you, when you are able to pay your bills and not have to worry about if you're going to be able to pay the other ones, you're less in your head about how less of a guy you are, because you start realizing, oh, wait, I can pay stuff on time. I can go to a dinner and blow. I went to a dinner last night for a friend of mine who's leaving town, and it was a steakhouse in Beverly Hills, and we did family style meal. Every single person paid $154. 10 years ago, even, I'd have been looking at the menu like, okay, I'm gonna get like the salad and like maybe one appetizer and just water to drink because I can't contribute more than that. Last night I was just like, okay, here, you need more? Let me know. And just see how that is? The action of I don't know if I can pay this or not, cowering versus like, yeah, go ahead, confident, chest up. Like having your money together will definitely start to help you build your confidence because you know you can take care of yourself, which means you can inevitably take care of somebody else. So the message that she left on that video was the following. She said, quote, any man can have a woman of his own if he is brutally honest with himself about what level he is on. Fishing in the right pond is 50% of attaining a woman permanently. Well, I would really like to agree with her, except for there's one small problem, is that unfortunately, attraction for women towards men is not linear. Like it'd be different if like, for guys, for example, if let's say I'm a 5, right? I can reasonably say that if I'm a 5, then I can shoot for anywhere between like 4 and 7s as my pick, right? Unfortunately today, a lot of women, even if they're 5s, one, every woman's made to believe that she's a 10, even if she doesn't have everything put together. In her eyes, she should think highly of herself, and therefore, all women should think of themselves as 10s, which then correlates with women are not being realistic about where they actually fall on the number range. So you have women that are 5s that are thinking, I can get a 10. Or what will happen is this, oftentimes, is that, let's say a 10 guy is having like an off night or slow night, and he happens to see a 5 that is willing and ready to hook up with him. So that 10 guy will hook up with that 5 woman. That 5 woman now believes that 10s is what she can aspire to. And so from then on, she will only try to go for the 8s, 9s, and 10s, even though linearly, as a 5, she should only be going between 7 and 4. And so I say this because there are men out there that are like, look, I know where I land on the scale. I'm a 3, I'm a 4, that's fine. I'm not gonna judge women out there too harshly. If they're overweight, if they got zits on their face, if whatever, I'm gonna just go with a woman that treats me well, and that's probably gonna fall in the 5 to like 2 range, and I'll take those because we all need love, right? That's how guys will think about it. A woman in that range will think, but I deserve, and then she just gives up. So what you're saying makes logical sense, which is like a man that is brutally honest with himself should date on his level, quote unquote. But the problem is the women that he's aspiring to get with are not thinking on that level. Even women that are like, they'll have like a middle-class job, or there'll be a woman that says like, I make like $50,000 a year, but I need a guy that makes $200,000 a year or more. And if you don't believe me, just go on YouTube and look at, I've seen several videos now where women have questioned their women friends about, hey, what kind of guy would you want to get with and how much does he need to make? And you'll have these like mid-level looking women talking about, I deserve $1 million guy. It's not the same. So yes, I agree, but women need to get to the idea that if they're a 5 or 6, they can shoot for higher, but if they can get a 5 or 6 guy, that's also fine. Unfortunately, a good variety of women consider that as settling, and because today they've been taught you should be able to get whatever you want, then if they feel as though they're settling for a 5 or 6 guy, they're not gonna go after him, even though that 5 or 6 guy is perfectly fine. My general philosophy is that most women want a guy that is better than them in all capacities, emotionally, physically, job-wise, etc. And so because of that general mindset, it makes it hard for a guy on any level to really get a woman that truly feels as though like she's not settling for that guy that's going after her. That's just the reality of that situation. As a woman, you may not have realized this, but really think back on like previous nice guys you may have known in your past. Why didn't you go out with those guys? They were nice, they were kind, but maybe they didn't have like a good enough job quite yet. Or maybe they weren't making the kind of money you thought they should make. Or maybe in the looks department, there was somebody that was a little bit taller or a little bit better looking facially. Like, this isn't a judgment call. This is just the reality of how women are typically analyzing dudes that they're going out with. And so dudes that are on their level, they're thinking, he's not better than me, therefore I can't date him. Sorry to say, that's how it is. So now, on to the next video that she critiqued of mine. This one was the number 3 of 3 reasons a woman would do a pull-away test on a guy. Let's take a look. And then the third reason that a woman may have do a pull-away test is because, quite honestly, she has a life outside of you that she's been neglecting. This could be her job, her studies if she's in school. It could be other friends and family that are starting to be like, hey, we want to invite you to this thing, or we haven't had our regular weekday talks or girl hangouts or whatever, like we have not seen you. And so a woman, early on in the dating stage, a woman's going to be torn between, I really want to see this guy and build a connection, and I still have these other responsibilities and other people in my life that I also have to attend to. And at some point, she's going to want to figure out a way to be able to split that focus. But the problem is that she, in part, is going to feel somewhat guilty knowing that it's probably hurting your feelings if she pulls away a little bit. But what else is she supposed to do? Because you're actually new stimuli in her life, and you're not the only stimuli that's in her life. You are important to a point in the sense that she's hoping to build something, but also she's like, but as much as I don't want to pull away, these other things are realistically going on in my life that I need to attend to. I can't worry about this guy hamping on me all the time and being like, well, I can't see you. Why aren't you texting me or this and that? Because that's not really fair to her. Okay. So the comment she left under that video is the following. She says, quote, men pulling away sabotages most scenarios that could have become full-fledged relationships. Instead of creating a false absence, try this instead. Number 1, be disciplined. Plan a singular weekly date outside of your house. Number 2, call or text to see if she's made it home safe. Number 3, call twice a week. The more talking she does, the more you know about her character. Number 4, stay away from texting. Number 5, like her Instagram post if applicable. Number 6, after 3 months of dating, if I don't want to be her man, stop dating her. She is not the one. So there's a lot to unpack in this particular comment. So let's go bit by bit. So first one, she says, men pulling away sabotages most scenarios that could have become full-fledged relationships. Well, the reality is that she's talking about the men that are the top tier ones that all women want to get with. They will get butt hurt when that guy pulls away because it's like they had a shot with the top tier guy and now she no longer has that shot. She feels judged. What was I not good enough, et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is that more often than not in these scenarios, the woman's the one that's pulling away. And to be fair, women are usually pulling away because of stuff that men are doing. I've talked about this several times in videos about how ultimately a lot of guys end up texting too much, calling too much. But the real thing is this, is that, because as you see her talk about later, right, is that men hear from women that this is what they want their guy to do. They want a guy to text and call all the time, yada, 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 which we'll go into in a minute. And so guys do these things, and then the woman starts to pull away, and they don't understand why. And here's why, guys. This is one of those things where you got to understand what women are actually meaning when they say stuff, right? What they're saying is, they want the guy that they're already in a relationship with to do these things, which makes sense. If you're in a relationship with somebody, then doing these things on a regular basis is going to keep it consistent and let the woman know that you care for her. But this is where we get into a lot of the things that work well in relationships do not help you actually get women. So texting the girl that you're already with on a daily basis to communicate with her, totally fine, not gonna chase her away. Because by the time you're in a relationship, she's built up enough like and established enough of a ground foundation of interest for you that doing something like that is not going to chase her away. Also by that point, yeah, she wants a guy that she knows is there for her and is there to be that concrete force for her. So in a relationship sense, that's perfectly fine. But building up for her the interest to where she's at that point, this is not the time to do the thing that she's talking about, because all it does is make her think it's too much too soon. If she's not already there in her feelings, then it's going to creep her out, make you look needy, and it's going to cause her to head for the hills. So let's go through her list, right? She says also, instead of creating a false absence, try this instead. Guys, real talk, if you're a guy that's, quote, not trying to play games, you're probably available all the time. Like, you're probably sitting at home playing video games, or you might be out like at a restaurant, but you're like, but if she wanted me to come over, I have time. And I don't know if as a guy you've experienced this, I have found when I was allowing women to know that I was readily available all the time, then it tended to make them be less attractive. Because what that actually conveys to women is, I have no life outside of you. So I need you to be aware that I'm always available, so you can always hit me up, so I can always spend my time with you, because I have nothing else going on. Women do not like to date guys that they feel has nothing else going on. So yes, while you could be the honest Abe and say, oh yeah, I'm open all the time, I'm ready whenever, all that says to a girl is like, he wants my attention all the time. Oh my God, he has nothing going on. And that's not the impression you can give to a girl early on that's going to turn her on. So if you're a guy that's not busy all the time, hey, she doesn't need to know that. You can just make yourself busy, or if you're doing other things, just don't give up your time for those things. If you're at home playing video games and you're thinking like, oh, I could contact her right now. Like, no, play your video game. You're busy at the moment, involved in this video game. Get to her later on. But do not always make yourself readily available, because she's saying that's a good thing. And I'm telling you, based on experience as a guy, that makes women tend to want to start to lose interest in you, all right? But let's go through her list. So she says, try this instead. Number 1, be disciplined. Plan a singular weekly date outside of your house. Well, to be fair, I say that all the time. I say when you first meet a woman, you should be taking her out only once a week until she starts suggesting that she wants more time with you. At that point, it's perfectly fine to start accepting more dates. And even then, if she's trying to ask you for a date like every single day, I would steer clear and really have it only be no more than like 2, maybe 3 dates a week tops, before you get to the boyfriend-girlfriend phase. But you should be only asking her for 1 date a week at the beginning. So next, she says, call or text to see if she made it home safe. I say don't do this because, again, based on personal experience, I have found that if I show a woman a great time and make her laugh and feel like we're connecting or whatever, that when I walk her back to her car and say I had a good night and hug her, that's where I leave it. Because I need her to start pondering if I had a good enough time to validate her. Because keep in mind, as much as our egos, guys, are in this, her ego is also in this. And her ego is saying, all guys like me, I'm so pretty, I'm so attractive, every guy's needy of my approval and my this and that. But they want to feel that. They want to feel like they're working for your approval. They want to feel as though they're actually doing things to convince a guy that she is worth being chosen. And so when you start doing things early on that already indicate to her right away that she's already got your heart, it makes women feel pressured into having to choose you. And once they feel like they have to choose you versus it being their choice, that's when they really start to second guess themselves and start to lose interest. Even if you're just trying to be honest, you're trying to be like, hey, I had a good time. I don't want to play games. I really like what we have going on so far. I really enjoyed our date, yada, yada, yada. You're thinking these are all good things. I'm telling you, based on personal experience, that doing that stuff in the beginning without leaving any doubt for her whatsoever about if she's doing things right or not usually results in her losing interest a lot quicker. I have found that when I didn't call girls or text girls after a date to see if they got home safe, you know what would usually happen? I get home like clockwork. 2 or 3 hours later, hey, just want you to know I had a good time. Why do they do that? Because they've been on 9 dates with 9 other guys where she got home and before she even hit their door, hey, I had a great time. I really had a good time with you and I want to see you again soon. And that lets the woman know, oh, he likes me. And then something in the back of their head goes like, that was a little too easy. He must be needy. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I want to see this guy now. But when you don't do that, it's like they get home and a different thought occurs, which is, I had a great time on that date. I haven't heard from him yet. Did he have a good time? I mean, I wore a dress and I wore perfume. I wore makeup. I was funny. I was vibrant. I laughed at all of his jokes, even the ones that were just kind of okay-ish. Like, I gave a good presentation. I was me. Like, he's got to like me. You know what? I'm not going to text the guy. Guys need to text me first. But I really need to know if he had a good time. You know what? I'm going to passively send him a text just saying that, I got home safe and I hope he had a good time. And that's how it works. And as they're doing that exercise, it's making them convince themselves that they had a good time with you. Hey, you went on a date with a hot chick that had nice curves and smelled good. You know you had a good time. But her second guessing is going to cause her to reach out to you, which means, in effect, she is now chasing you. And as I always say, if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. But you trying to text her and make sure she got home safe and all this stuff, you're thinking you're trying to be a good guy, but it's actually giving off things that she doesn't need to feel from you early on in the dating process, all right? Getting home safe is something you can say. You'll know that she got home safe when you call her a few days later for another date and she picks up. Oh, she picked up. She must have got home safe. Or you'll hear, I ended up in the hospital after our date. Why didn't you call me? But I've yet to have that happen, so just keep that in your mind, all right? Anyway, on to the next comment. She says, call twice a week. The more talking she does, the more you know about her character. None of that makes sense. Like, she's thinking that if you call her a lot, you're going to learn more about her. What you're going to find is the more you call her, she's going to start to answer less and talk to you less. So you're going to get a false read. You're going to get a read of like, she must not be that interested because she keeps not having as long of a conversation each time and she's putting me off and all this other stuff. And no, it's that she only needs you to text or call her either A, when you're asking her for a date, or B, when you're responding to her call and responding to her text. Other than that, surprise, spoiler guys, women don't need to hear from you every single day. Now, women don't hear that. This woman might even hear that and dispute that. Oh no, he needs to call me and text me all the time. Again, a woman that you're in a relationship with, yes, calling her and texting her a bit more frequently is going to be fine on average. I still go by the 3-to-1 ratio, which is like for every 3 texts they initiate, I initiate 1 text back that is not based on me responding to them. And that has worked for me immensely, all right? Again, as a guy having to text women, I've learned that texting them too often and calling them twice, 3 times a week, that's outside of the context of me asking for a date, usually results in them feeling like I'm doing way too much and they start to lose interest. So you could listen to her, but again, guys in the comments, what has your experience been when you've called a woman a lot or text a woman a lot? I imagine for a lot of you, it gels with my experience, but hey, let me know in the comments below what your experience has been when you've done that, all right? Then she goes from saying call twice a week to like stay away from texting. Now, I tell you guys all the time, texting kills attraction. So I agree. Guys should avoid texting with the exception of asking her for a date or responding to her text. And even then, your text should always be at a 1-to-1 ratio. She sends a text, you send 1 back. No double, triple, quadruple texting. Same thing with phone calls. If she calls you once, no trying to call her back 2, 3, 4 times. We know you want to see her. Save your communication for the most part for the actual date. That's where you can do all the talking you want to and get to know her all you want to, but doing excessive texting and calling outside of that, women, I have found the ones that I've talked to, like the ones I've dated and also women friends of mine, get very annoyed by that. Now, maybe she has a different circle, but again, I've found that most women, when they say this, they mean they want the guy that they're already in a relationship with to be calling and texting them a lot, not the ones that they just started dating, all right? She says 5, like her Instagram post if applicable. I tell you guys that honestly, this comes across as creepy behavior. You're thinking, I've been on 1 date with her, so now I can like become her friend on Instagram and Facebook or whatever, and I can start sending her stuff and liking all of her posts. That comes off as creepy behavior because it comes off as stalking behavior. Women might not say it to you outright, but it's like, yeah, she now knows that when she's not in front of your face, you're on her page and you're looking up her pictures from her past and you're looking up who she's hanging out with and what outfit she's in. And that subconsciously reads as creepy behavior, which is why I tell you guys, you should not become a friend with a woman on Instagram or TikTok or whatever until you're actually in a relationship. So for those first 3 months of dating her, let it be a mystery. If she asks you, hey, can I be a friend of yours on Facebook or Instagram? My response is like, honestly, I save that for relationships. Like, I think right now, we don't need to be friends like that until we get into a relationship. And I have found surprisingly, most women respect that and understand it because, yeah, I don't want her stalking me either when we're not in front of each other. She's already gonna do it. Most women are gonna already be on Google and on your Instagram, whatever. They're not gonna become friends with you, but trust me, they're looking. But you getting on there and trying to like all this stuff, like I'm telling you guys, it does not come across as good as this woman thinks that it does, all right? And then she says, after 3 months of dating, if you don't want to be her man, stop dating her. She is not the one. Now that one I will agree on. I think that 3 months is plenty of time to decide on both sides if people want to be with each other. And so at the 3-month mark, if you're just not feeling it, whatever, and she's not up for a friends with benefits situation, then don't waste her time. Like, I totally agree with that. Do not waste a woman's time. Just like I don't want women wasting your time trying to steal your money, resources, or whatever, just because she's lonely and wants a free dinner. All right. So same as fair game on that one. I will agree is that do not waste women's time. If you've been with her 2.5 to 3 months and you're like, I'm just not feeling it, then get out now versus getting out later and then giving her the, I never liked you speech, because I don't think that's fair to women either. So now we go into the next video that she critiqued, which is, I did a video where I said that 10 of 10 girly phrases that repel women from your dating profile. Let's see what that video is. The 10th type of effeminate language to stop using on dating apps is using poetic or romantic language. So, I'm a dreamer who believes in soulmates and serendipity, and if it's meant to be, it'll be, and it's just fate. And when two souls come together, it's just absolutely magnetic. All this is all just flowery, and that's what women do, and that's what women say, and women don't want that from their guys. Even if they want their guy to participate in things that feel like that, they don't want a guy expressing that. And on a dating app, you only have so many chances to display who you are. If you're trying to get women that want masculine men, you only have so many chances to display that. And if on all your prompts and in your bio, you're doing any of these 10 things, all you're doing is displaying a feminine side. And yes, we've heard that women want men to tap into their feminine side. It does not mean what you think it means, but suffice to say, on dating apps, they're looking for a guy that's going to be able, that they can get the picture of, is going to knock their socks off in bed, is going to take them on adventures, is going to be able to lead them into dangerous things that they wouldn't do on their own. And you doing all this feminine language is going to make them think you're not going to ever be that guy. Yeah, that still tracks. So what she critiqued, though, there was, quote, women love romance. That actually works if we think you are sexy. Emphasis on if we think you are sexy. So my point is, if you are romantic, show it. If she doesn't like you, it's because you aren't her, and then it cut off. I think it meant like you aren't her choice or whatever. But here's the thing. Men on average are more romantic than women. Like, women are the receivers of what we do as romantic gestures. So the way that we express our romance to them, they are going to feel that and love it and want more of it. For guys that are either already dating them or guys that they're already in a relationship with. For you on a dating app, you talking about flowery language, this and that, you gotta understand, on a dating app, you're projecting a certain image of you. And one of those things that you're projecting is the level of masculinity that you have. Because most women on those dating apps and in the world at large want men that are displaying masculinity in a positive way, but like masculine nonetheless. This is why I like, guy putting, I know how to build things and showing himself with like an axe and a hammer on a dating app is more attractive than a guy trying to say flowery language, like I said in that video. So to her point that, yeah, women like romance, but they like it coming from a guy that they've already determined they're interested in getting to know and that they want to pursue them, right? On a dating app, it's an open market. They don't know if they like you until they see your page and see what you have to offer. And if what you have to offer is a bunch of flowery language and feminine type stuff, then yeah, you're gonna get swiped off of. So this is not the area where you're gonna be talking about the romantic things you do. Now, once she swipes right on you, you guys start having conversations, you might mention a few things here or there, but even with that, women are going to be less creeped out by you doing romantic gestures at the point where you've dated for a little bit and she's starting to like you more and more. In the beginning, it's like a open free-for-all. She doesn't know if you're going to be the one for her. Therefore, she doesn't want you to be romantic towards her because she hasn't decided yet if you're the guy she wants that from. But to her point, she says, emphasis on if we think you're sexy. Yeah, but you don't know that when you first approach a woman. For women out there, we don't know when you look at us if you want us romantically or not. And what I've learned in my years of doing this is that women start out on the maybe plane. When they see you, it's either a direct, like, no, I would never date this guy, but most guys fall into the path of like, maybe. Like, maybe I would date this guy, depending on what happens next. If he walks up to me and I smell him and he smells a certain way, if he walks up to me and starts giving that kind of smooth talk, if he walks up to me with the right drink in his hand, like, there are a plethora of things that are gonna make this go either way to help her decide if we're sexy. And even then, having a conversation and her finding out about your lifestyle, about how you treat your family, about the kind of car you have, like, all these things are gonna contribute to her deciding, yeah, I think he's sexy, right? On top of, obviously, the guys that are the 3%ers that they just ooze it when they walk into a room. Those guys exist. I get it. I understand, all right? But to the point is that her saying, if you're romantic, show it. She doesn't like you because you aren't her choice. Well, again, there's so many things that go into a woman deciding if you're her choice or not, that you doing romantic stuff early on isn't ideal until you find that out. So this woman's wrong in that sense as well. Because again, as women, they experience romance and they have these feelings and things, but they're not aware of what guys are actually doing or saying to them that they have to know how to say or do to make them feel those things. And women don't like to hear that. Women don't like to hear like, oh, guys are doing things to make us feel things. That's manipulative. No, it's not. It's how it works. If a guy walks into a room and he knows if I wear this certain outfit and wear this certain cologne and have my 5 o'clock shadow going, that women are going to probably react positively to me, yeah, that guy's going to do that every time because he has experience with that happening more often than not. And even with that's going to be the initial turn on for the women. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have to do more work, and most guys know this, all right? So that's why this critique, while well-meaning, is not completely telling the whole side of the story from the women's perspective. Because from the women's perspective, they got to think you're sexy, but they don't know the work that goes into that, which is why you're better off not showing romance in the beginning, and then as you're dating her and getting to know her and she's getting to know you, then you can start bringing out bit by bit romantic things. So then I made another video on Instagram where I talk about how ladies go crazy when they know you can do this particular thing. Let's watch the video. Fellas, here's a solid dating tip for you. Learn how to cook. I just got back from work and I work with an office full of ladies. So we were all in the conference room celebrating a birthday. And I mentioned that I'm going to go home and heat up some beef stew that I made for myself. And all the ladies' eyes went like, and they were like, oh my God, you know how to cook? And I was like, yeah, I know how to cook. I want to eat at home more often. So I have cookbooks and I make recipes and yeah, I know how to cook. I swear the look on all their faces were like priceless. They were just so shocked. And I could tell someone probably getting a little turned on by that. So yeah, cooking is a great skill to have in general. It shows that you can take care of yourself. Plus, it gives you an excuse to say to a woman, hey, come back to my place and I'll make you something. And most women are thinking you're making spaghetti. So when you know how to make an actual recipe, it's extremely impressive. And your meals ain't got to be complicated. Just learn one or two really solid dishes and you'll be in the game. So yeah, so for that video, here's what she said. She said, yes, it's a great life skill, but be careful. Most women who want a man that can cook is because they are too lazy to cook themselves. I'm a woman and I hear women say all the time, I need a man that can cook for me so I don't have to. Is that the kind of woman you want? Well, here's the reality of the situation. I grew up in a household where my dad was a really good cook and he learned from his stepdad how to cook because my step-granddad was a chef in the military, right? So he knew how to cook these really elaborate meals. He had traveled all around the world and learned how to cook Filipino dishes and Mexican dishes and all these other kinds of dishes and stuff, right? My mom came from a household where her mom knew how to cook, but wasn't like in the kitchen showing them how to do it a lot. And then she got divorced from my mom's mom divorced their dad, my granddad. And so now there was not a woman in the house to teach how to cook. And so they just kind of had to piece stuff together. So my mom did not really like cooking. She knew how to cook a few dishes here and there, but if you ask her now, she's like, I wasn't the best chef. I always say like, Mom, like me and my brother, we thrived off your cooking. We survived. So it's fine. It's totally fine. You weren't like a 5-star chef, but we got along great. But the point is that my dad was the one that primarily cooked. My mom didn't like to cook. They worked out great. You know why? Because in relationships, there's going to be things that one person does better than the other, and you just learn how to take one person's strengths and the other person's strength and just know where your area is going to be in the relationship. So to answer your question, if I found out that I was a better cook than the woman I was dating, I would assume she probably did some stuff that was better than I don't want to do. For example, like paying bills. Like if I was with a woman that knew how to put together a good budget plan and balance a checkbook, fantastic, because I hate doing that stuff. Now, I wouldn't want that woman to think, he doesn't know how to balance a budget or do this and that. Oh, do you really want to get with that kind of guy? Well, if she doesn't like to cook, and she knows that I like to cook, then this is now a match made in heaven. So, but it's the thing is like, that's how men think about dating is that, okay, if she's lacking in these areas, what other things can she bring to the table that's going to balance that out? And I think most women are thinking, well, if a guy doesn't have all the things I need, like there have been surveys that said like, they'll ask men, hey, if a woman came along and only had like 80% of what you wanted in a woman, would you say yes to that? And most men's responses are 80%. I would kill for 80% because most women are only bringing like 50%. And even those ones, I'm still giving the benefit of the doubt, but 80%? Absolutely. And they've surveyed women where they say, hey, if a guy came along and just had 80%, before they even finish the sentence, the woman's like, no, I need to have like 95 to 100% because, I deserve, and oh my God, I'm going to go for what I want and I deserve all this stuff. And so it's not a good question because for men, we look at it as like, if you're able to balance out what you can't do, totally fine. Or if I'm able to cook what I want and you just shut the heck up about it and just eat whatever I say, also totally fine. So this question doesn't work for a guy because we don't understand the idea of like, but if she can't cook, we don't see that as lazy. We just see it as like, okay, well then do something else. So that's why that comment, again, well-meaning, but she's coming at it from a woman's perspective. She's saying, as a woman, women say, I need a man that can cook for me so I don't have to. If a woman doesn't want to cook, hey, most guys like, it'd be nice. I've dated plenty of women, I've dated a good balance of women that can cook really well in the kitchen, and some that like, they're lucky if they can microwave water, And in both cases, I'm fine. If the woman knows how to cook, awesome. I know how to cook as well, but if she wants to take over most of the cooking, I can find another way to balance this out, totally fine. If I'm with a woman that doesn't like to cook that much or doesn't know how to cook that great, hey, you know what? I can cook the meals, totally fine. She can find something else. And I'm not going to see her as lazy for not doing one skill set when I know there's other skill sets besides cooking that come to a relationship. So then this other video that I did, I said, here's why you don't overextend yourself when dating women. Let's take a look at that video. I found there's a lot of correlation between the job world and the dating world. One of the things I've noticed about the job world that I've experienced myself is that, let's say I go on a job, I have a certain set of skills they've hired me for, right? So they have an expectation of me having a certain set of skills. If I then go above and beyond and overstretch myself to give them extras that I'm not asking them currently to pay for, rather than them saying, hey, this guy's doing extra for us, I'm going to pay him some more because he's actually worth that, what will typically happen is work, you add the extra stuff in, and then at some point resentment builds up to where I found if I try to go later and say, hey, I want to get paid extra for the work that I'm doing, the response is going to be, but why? You're already doing the stuff. Why should I upgrade you or pay you more for something you're already giving to us? So I thought about that and thought about how, a lot of times nice guys complain about, they're trying to do all this stuff for a woman and she just won't date him. And my thought is, one, did she ask you to do that extra stuff? And two, why did you do that extra stuff when you weren't aware if this woman even had feelings for you or was thinking about you in a dating capacity? On top of, did this woman actually do anything to earn the extra nice stuff that you're now doing for her? Because I know a lot of you guys will think, well, I'm just a nice person and I'd like to give it of my all and, jump 2 feet in right away. But women are very good at understanding that there needs to be time to build up attraction, and there needs to be time built up before they start to give you extra benefits, right? But men don't do that. We just want to give right away, and then we get mad and upset when we're doing all this nice stuff for a woman and we're not able to date her. Because again, why would she upgrade you to the status of boyfriend when she's basically already getting boyfriend results without having to actually date you or put her own time in? So that's just a short message to you nice guys out there. Really treat dating like a job. When you're interviewing for the job and you're doing certain things, you're keeping it at a certain level. And then if she's wanting more of you, or if you're wanting to be able to expand yourself to really show her your full capacity, see if there's a relationship there first. And I'm not saying to you guys, don't ever do nice things ever, or don't take her out on a date, but I am saying that you guys that are overextending yourself, that's not going to get you the woman. She needs to like you as is, and then at the point you guys get in a relationship, then you can do some extra stuff, and it'll be warranted because you got the relationship. Okay, so under that video, this woman left, and by the way, she liked all these videos and then left these comments, right? So she left this comment and said, great advice, but again, be careful. Remember, if a woman is attracted to men and has healthy self-esteem, she will always choose the provider. So if you have overextended yourself and got played, it's because she never liked you. That's the key. Does she like you? Be a provider for the woman that likes you if you want to win. If you don't provide and she puts out, it's because she doesn't believe she is worth the effort. Do you want a woman who doesn't know she is special? A lot to unpack here. So for starters, at no point did I say, hey guys, date women with low self-esteem, and that way they will choose you. Like, that's not what we're talking about here, right? I want you guys ideally to date women that have a high level of self-esteem about themselves. But what I'm saying here basically is that ultimately, she's saying if you have overextended yourself and got played, it's because she never liked you. And I try to tell you guys all the time, it's because you're overextending yourself early on in the dating process when she's starting to get to know you that you're losing women. Why? Because stereotypically, that behavior comes across as you're doing too much, and she's thinking it's because you're desperate, you're needy, you have no other prospects, you're trying to do this as a means of rushing her into a relationship, which makes her then question, but why is he trying to rush me to a relationship? I told this story before, but like, there was a girl I dated a few years ago whereby we met early on, like we met on a dating app, went out, had a good time. A couple days later, she was gonna go to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. So I was like, hey, I have an off day, I'll take it to the airport. So I took it to the airport, right? And then a week later, she was gonna be coming back. And so I just hit her up and said, hey, let me know when you get back. I'll be happy to pick you up from the airport. First text she sends me back is, okay, like, why are you doing so much for me? Like, why are you being so nice to me? And this is a girl that had a relatively good head on her shoulders, but it was still like, dude, you're doing a lot. Like, because I forgot that, picking somebody up from the airport means you're sacrificing time, effort, energy, gas money to do this thing. Why am I, and she in her head logically thinking, why would a guy that I just met be doing something as big as fighting through LA traffic to come get me? That he must have some kind of ulterior motive, like what's going on. And I had to remember, like, oh crap, like right, she just right. I was like, if I was like picking up with a guy, they would just think I'm just doing a nice thing. But for women, it's like that is reading into it too much. So I had to scale back. I basically just said, I mean, I don't have to pick you up. It's totally fine. I just had a free day. And then she was like, okay, cool. And so in the course of that, me and her dating each other, she was able to kind of see a bit more about, okay, this is like not simpy, moody behavior. But and she liked me. She liked me a lot, but doing that thing made her start to feel like he's doing too much. So this thing where she's saying like, you know, overextend yourself for women that you like. The problem is, and I say this time and time again, guys, so get in your head. If the woman is not there with her feelings for you yet, then she's going to judge your actions differently. If it was like month 3, and she had like all these feelings for you and her interest is up to like 80 or 90%, then at that point, if you were to do something that's like overextending a bit, she'd be like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Because she's thinking her feelings are so overpowering for you that you doing this gesture is not overpowering how she feels about you. But when you first start dating her and her interest in you is like 55, 60%, then you doing things that are overextending to her is gonna read as too much. So it'll stop reading as too much and overextending at the point where her feelings are so high in you that when you do these actions, it's not going to overleap how she feels about you. But in the beginning, this is horrible. It's a horrible thing. And plus, also too, women do this weird thing where like, if you're overextending yourself, they're thinking you must do this for all the girls that you like. And so therefore, it doesn't feel as special. And so women need your overextending actions to feel special, which means that they need to have been with you at enough time to where they feel as though when you're giving these actions, they've actually earned the action. And I'll give women credit for that, is that women typically critique guys that overextend because they on some level feel as though they need to build up to earning more and more of your attention, focus, time, effort, energy, all right? So you can't be that guy that overextends, because again, a lot of this is based on my personal dating experience. So again, guys, you can leave in the comments whether or not you've had the experience of overextending yourselves and it working out. But based on the guys that I've coached, I have found that guys come to me and say, oh, I wanted to, I met her, we had 2 good dates, and then I wanted to get her flowers and candy and give her a card and take her on a trip to a concert or on a really big vacation. And then I hear back next, like, oh, it didn't work out. Like, I took her to this thing, or I went to this big vacation thing, and then next thing I know, she's losing interest. I've had that experience of taking women to concerts, and I'm taking them to these big things where it's like, it doesn't work out. Because these overextending actions, nothing trumps how she feels about you. Doing overextended actions do not build up her interest. Her interest has to already be there enough to where it now warrants you doing these big overextended actions. And then she says, if you overextend yourself and got played, it's because she never liked you. Again, that's not true. You're chasing her off by doing them. She says, does she like you? Be a provider for the woman that likes you if you want to win. But the problem is, for women out there listening, is that early on, we don't know if you've chosen us yet, and therefore, we're already providing. If you think about how dates operate typically, the guy is saying, hey, I'm gonna provide a meal for you. I'm gonna provide a good time for you. I'm gonna provide a space for you to have conversation and to dump your emotions on somebody who has to act like they care about them, right? We're already providing, but it's at a low level. As a guy, you wanna go in providing on a very, very low level to give you time to get to know her, to see if she's worth doing more and more for. So you doing the bare basics in the beginning is enough. You just asking for a date, showing her a good time, providing her with conversation, that is more than enough. As she starts to spend more time with you, as she starts to suggest, hey, you took me on a date, let me take you on a date. That's when you can start doing an ounce more each time you see her. But really, at the point where you get into a relationship with her is where you can start doing a bit more overextending, because also at that point, you're gonna find that she's gonna be overextending for you as well. But until that happens, guys, I'm sorry to say, listening to this woman about you should overextend yourself, it sounds like good advice because it benefits them. It benefits a woman to say, yes, please, guys, please overextend yourself to us so we can feel all the things and get all the benefits and reap all the rewards, but does it actually build attraction? I found that has nothing to do with building attraction, all right? So take that for what it's worth. And then the last comment that she left was on my YouTube video. So I'm not going to play that whole thing because it's long, but I did a YouTube video called She Says I Don't Text Her Enough, Should I Give In? Where I talk about this guy had a situation where a woman texted him and said, hey, so I noticed you're not like really texting me a whole lot. Is that like a thing we can change? And his response was like, I'm sorry, I'm just not that big of a texter, but I love hanging out with you and yada, yada, yada. And then that girl's response was, okay, I totally understand. I was just in my feels, which is what I tell you guys all the time is that if you're not texting a lot, a woman's going to be second guessing and wondering where she stands with you. Do you like her? And sad to say, women need to have those questions in their head and feel those things so that way you stay on their mind. And if you stay on their mind, they're going to, of their own accord, start to build more and more interest for you. So, what did the woman leave as a comment? She left a comment that said, I'm a woman. This is horrible advice to not text her. Here's the truth from a woman. Calling and texting once a day is excellent and shows you are commitment material. A lot of guys are single because they listen to horrible advice like this. I have stopped dating successful, handsome guys who wanted me to pursue them. I chose my guy because he showed me genuine care, concern, and planned great dates. If she doesn't like you, it doesn't matter how much you employ this guy's strategy. It's sad he has it all wrong. I'd love to give the guy teaching advice because he needs it. Most men are single because they chose women who never liked them. Well, as I've stressed to you guys before, and this, because I teach responsibility of your own accord, right? If you're a guy that's gone out with 9 girls and all 9 girls have rejected you or have gone from having interest in you to losing interest, I got news for you. It's not because they never liked you. If you got on a couple of dates with them, you had a shot. They had genuine interest that was there. But as a guy, it's very easy to be unaware of the things that you're doing, of what you're saying, of the kind of date you're taking them on the things that you're not even doing, that could cause women to lose interest. That's why I have a whole book called Stop Losing Women. It means that you got the woman at some point, she was interested, she said yes to a date, and then over the course of a couple of dates, you did things that resulted in her losing interest. It's not because she never liked you. But let's go back, right? So this woman says again, calling and texting once a day is excellent and shows you are commitment material. That is great advice for men that are in relationships. But when you're not in a relationship with a woman, calling and texting her every day is more apt to make her lose interest because you're not giving her time to think about you, to talk about you to her girlfriends, and all the other things women need to do when you're not in front of them to build interest of their own accord, right? So yeah, you stick to calling and texting when you're asking her for a date or when you're responding to her initiating those texts. Now women will hear that and say, but then he's not chasing me, and women like guys who pursue. Notice I don't say, don't ever text her, don't ever call her. I say, you only call and text when you're trying to ask her for a date, which is in effect, you as a guy pursuing. But you do not be the one to overtext, to overcall, and to call them all the time, because more often than not, the women you're losing out to men that they have interest in that aren't texting or calling all the time. Because while you're calling them and texting them nonstop in hopes of giving them assurance that you like them, they're thinking about, but there's that one guy I met at that party that I wish would call me. Well, there's that ex that I want to get back with, but he just always seems too busy. He only texts me like once or twice a week, but I want to hear from him more. That's the guy who you're losing out to, all right? So you're not losing out if you're not texting and calling all the time. But again, she's giving advice of a woman that is in a relationship that wants that from the guy that she's currently in a relationship with. But a guy that she's just starting out to date, most women can't comprehend or verbalize that it makes sense to do that because it doesn't make sense. Like a woman verbalizing, I need a guy that only calls me like once or twice a week to ask for a date. To women, saying that out loud doesn't make sense. But in practice, I have found it's actually very effective to be able to get the women you want, including women that have a high self-esteem level. Then she says, a lot of guys are single because they listen to horrible advice like this. She says, I have stopped dating successful, handsome guys who wanted me to pursue them. Well, she's got it misconstrued because those guys weren't less interested. What happened was they were probably like, hey, I'm taking her out on a good date, and then I'll wait a few days to call her up for another date. And that's a fine program. So, but the reason I tell you guys to do that is because it allows you to suss out women like this. Women that are impatient, women that are gonna get all moody or butthurt if they don't hear from you for 3 or 4 days. Because those women are the kind of women that need attention all the time. And those kind of women, especially if you're an introvert, get exhausting to date. You need a woman that's able to be like, he's probably busy. Or suppose you have a job where like you fly across the country for like a week and you, for a reason, your phone doesn't work there internationally and you can't talk to her. You don't want to come home to him and it's like, you didn't talk to me at all, blah, 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 because of some circumstance that you couldn't control that caused you to not be able to do that, right? But this is why you do this early on, is to test out the kind of temperament she's going to have. If you go out with a woman once and then you wait 4 days to contact her, and her response is like, oh, you waited 4 days, so I don't want to see you. You actually did what you need to do. You got rid of a woman that's going to be difficult to date, and that's what you need to be doing to get to a woman that's not going to do that. Because the women I found that I'm able to go 4 or 5 days and they not be butthurt about it, those women tend to be easier to date than the ones that are like, it's been 3 hours since you text me back. What's going on? Are you cheating on me? Oh my God. Like, it becomes a pain in the butt. So you do this to test that kind of stuff. Then she says, I chose my guy because he showed me genuine care, concern, and planned great dates. At no time does she say, and also because he texts and calls me all the time. So she's confusing two things. She's confusing a guy having to text and call all the time with a guy that's showing genuine care. You can be a guy that doesn't text her for 4 or 5 days before you ask for another date, but then on the date, you're pulling out her chair, you're opening her door for her, you're ordering the food for her, you're, letting her talk during the conversation, you're not interrupting her, you're generally hugging her, you're trying to kiss her. Like, all those tangible things are actual ways that matter more to show care versus like, oh, you didn't send a digital text for 3 or 4 days. Like, and again, if she gets butthurt by that, you can just say, hey, you know what? I typically tend to be a guy. I don't tend to be on my phone all the time because when I'm not in front of you, as much as I'm thinking about you, I'm trying to work and do other things to make sure I can afford our dates and to like make sure that I'm at where I'm at. But trust me, during those days I'm not seeing you, I'm online trying to plan dates. I'm going on Facebook looking up events that are happening. I'm going on Eventbrite to see what's happening in our town, just so when I do call you, I can show you the best time of your life and make sure that when we get together to see each other, we're going to be having a splendid time. And don't you think that's a lot better than just, hey, hi, what's up? And the reality is that most women, at least the ones I've dated, have understood that. Now, again, in person, you're pulling out all the stops to where she feels like you're giving her genuine care. And then when you're not talking to her, she's thinking, man, I had such a good time. He threw his coat over a puddle and he was like making sure I was safe and secure when we did this escape room. Like, oh my God, I feel so whatever. Like, she needs you to not interrupt that with constant text and phone calls so she can feel those things and relive those memories when you're not in front of her, so that way she's the one reaching out to you, because we want that to ultimately happen, right? Then she says, if she doesn't like you, it doesn't matter how much you employ this guy's strategy. It's sad he has it wrong. Well, I agree with the first part, not the wrong part, but the part where it's like, I tell you guys all the time, the ultimate goal is to find a woman that has high interest. If a woman has low interest, you could do my stuff, you could listen to her if you want to, and it's not gonna work. But if a woman has a high level of interest in you, you can still lose that woman if you're doing the stuff that she's talking about. Because yes, how you are is going to affect how she thinks and feels about you. So, you being a guy that texts her from time to time, but when you text her, you're asking her on a date and you get to see her and you're hooking up with her and you're taking her out for meals and you're having a good time and she's feeling that, a woman that has high interest is going to have even higher interest after that. A woman that has high interest, but you're calling all the time, texting all the time, and is showing and is overextending yourself and is overly needy, that can start to make a woman second guess. Maybe, because what will happen is this: she has high interest based on how you were showing up in the moment. And when she first met you, say you met her at a party, by the end of the party, she's at 75% interest because you were like that vibrant guy. You only talked to her sporadically here and there, but when she talked to you, there was a good vibe going. Maybe you made out with her, and then you get the number, right? So by the end of that party, she has 75% interest, and she's like on cloud 9 after that one meeting. But then you go home, texting her, calling her, texting her, calling her, texting her, calling her. And now it goes from like 75% where it was at the party to like 55% because she's starting to see this behavior that she didn't see before that she now has to calculate into what her interest is, and it's going down. So even if you have a woman that has high interest, the reality is if you don't know the right things to do, you can lose that woman's interest. That's why I got a whole channel. That's why I got hundreds of videos. I got a bunch of great programs you can order at the website because they're all designed to help you get a woman's interest and then keep it. And some of you guys make a mistake of thinking if you meet a girl and she goes on one date with you, boom, her interest is already high, you can now do no wrong. Women need 3 months. So in that 3 months time, you can do a lot wrong that can cause her to lose out after the second date, 5th date, 7th date, 9th date. I've had guys in here that's like, I got to the 2.5 month mark and then I asked her for the relationship. what do I tell you guys? Wait for her to bring it to you. So even a woman that has high interest, you can go to her, hey, so we should be in a relationship. She's either gonna say yes and be second guessing it or be like, oh, it's still too soon because your reading of that was off. So this is why I tell you guys, you pursue, you ask out, but you do things to make sure that she's gonna have ample time to sit with her thoughts, think about you, feel things, reminisce, and then build up interest. You being in front of her face all the time is not gonna do that. All right. So again, this is advice that I think she's well-meaning, but again, this is advice from that women have for guys that they would already be in relationships with. Yes, calling all the time, texting all the time. Again, I don't think you should be doing that, but you can get away with that a lot easier when you're in a relationship versus when you're getting to know her. So you need to know the difference between what things to do during the dating phase versus what's going to work in the relationship phase, because you'll mess around and listen to women like this who are giving decent enough advice for guys that are already in relationships thinking it's going to work for you in the dating phase and lose out to women. Now, if you need help differentiating between those things and what they are, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and sign up for coaching. I would love to help you, or sign up for any one of my programs, or just watch a plethora of my videos. My videos are free as heck on YouTube. So do any of those things. But the point is that this is why I tell you guys, it's better to listen to men that have actual dating experience and have been successful in relationships or whatever than listening to women, because women are the receivers of what we do. And so they don't always know of what we're doing that's causing them to be attracted. Also, a point is that women don't have to walk in men's shoes, and women don't have to walk in the world trying to think of all these things they have to do to be able to attract a guy. They have to do things to keep a guy, but in terms of like the actual initial attraction stage, like they go out into the world for the most part and have guys throwing themselves at women all the time. It is not the same for us, so we have to work under a different set of rules in order to attract them and keep them, all right? So hopefully this helps you out. For the woman, if you ever watch this video, I'm not trying to be mean to it all. Like I said, I think you're well-meaning. You don't have the experience of dating as a guy and knowing what it's like to do all the things that you're talking about and still fail. To be a guy that's successful and has a good head on his shoulders and is trying to call the time and trying to tell women, I don't play games and I want to date you even though it's our first date. I already know I want you, this and that, and getting negative result after negative result versus going out there and doing the stuff that I'm talking about and getting results that plenty of guys have said on here are like, oh my God, like I started doing what you said and listening to you, and now I'm like being able to date the girl that I always wanted to date. Like those are the responses that I typically tend to get. So I can't in good faith say the stuff that you said is great. I gotta say that I think that you could also stand to learn a little bit more about men. And you might be saying, but my guy this, and he treated me the way I blah, 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 blah. You might be the exception. All women typically tend to think that they're the exception and not the rule. But let's say, for argument's sake, you are the exception. Your experience is not that you're talking about is not the experience that most men have when they're trying to go out there and date women. And a lot of the stuff that you mentioned here that you think should work on women, most men's reality is that it doesn't work. And because you don't walk in our shoes, you don't have the experience of that, because again, you're the receiver of all this stuff, and your guy might have been like that random, weird, outlier guy that he was able to call you all the time, text you all the time, ask you out every single day, and it worked out. But I'm saying for men, that's not typically what happens. So I can't teach on what I would hope to happen. I can only teach on what my experience is and the experience that I've seen of other guys that I've coached and what is more likely to happen when they do these things. So hopefully, guys and women, this helps you all out. For more of these shows, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. Go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/HarryWilmington. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified of when I put up new videos. And also, guys, if you want to support the show, definitely go to $HarryWilmington on Cash App and donate whatever you feel the value of this video has been worth to you personally. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Harry Dating Conversations. Peace.